All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, as I said, on the East Coast, this morning on the West Coast, and wherever else you are listening to. Just let us drop it down in the comments. Let us know where you're listening. As you know, every week we do what we have known as This Week in Review. And basically, this week in review basically covers the some of the major news or interesting news bits that have happened over the course of the week within the industry, be it music, film, what have you. So basically, throughout the spectrum of entertainment from Sunday to Saturday up until now. So that means the prior Sunday up until now. And I won't be alone in discussing some of these topics, just as I have in the past. I will have my fellow co-creator, Jerome Bourgeois. So let me bring him on. Give me one sec. What's going on, man?
What's up?
Good morning. Well, good afternoon. I was about to say good morning.
How's everything, man? Everything's good? Good?
Everything's good, man. Everything's good. So just as I said, thank you guys so much for those of you watching out there. But drop it down in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Also, additionally, if you like many of these videos that we put on about some of the things, news bits that are happening in the industry, or even some of the other stuff that we have, be sure to drop a like and a comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button that you see down below. It helps us out a great deal. But with all that out of the way, let's hop right into a lot of the news stories that made the rounds this week, Jerome. Shall we? Give me one sec. I guess the first one that I wanted to talk about, first one that I wanted to hit the grounds about today was there was a story that dropped on social media via Twitter on John Krasinski's on his Twitter, where he, revealed a cool tidbit about a film that many of us have been, waiting for, over for quite some time now. And obviously because of the pandemic and how that's affected the industry, it's been constantly seeing delays. But as I said, via his Twitter, he dropped the news that the sequel to his horror film known as The Quiet Place, aptly titled The Quiet Place 2, will actually be releasing on Memorial Day. So with that being said, Jerome, what are your thoughts on this bit of information on this horror film? Have you had a chance to see the original? I mean, I myself have seen it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I'm excited, about this film coming out, because I do know, if I remember correctly, it has been moved up by a couple of months, because originally it was going to make its debut in September. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I haven't seen the original, but no, that's something I've been needing to do. But I did like the trailer. I mean, I remember seeing the trailer for this one. I was like, yeah, man, it looks really good. But obviously, everything got pushed back from the pandemic. They probably, I'm assuming that probably, their budget, it warrants them, being able to take that risk if it's gonna come out a little bit earlier than these other big budget movies. But I mean, we'll see, because it's true, people are getting vaccinated. Hopefully, if we get full vaccination, I don't know, maybe in the summer. That's what the president's saying, but you never know, because people I think are going to slowly go back to theaters, just like just recently, I think in New York, like they're opening up, but it's still at limited capacity. So maybe by then you'll have a little bit more people interested. But I don't know. It just seems it's still possible. Maybe if it's not going to be pushed back again, or they're probably, because they're doing that, if they do like a dual strategy online or something. I think a lot of studios are just getting to that point also, where they're like, we just got to release these movies, because if you're just waiting too long, then they might lose some of their buzz or lose some of their, the demand for people wanting to watch these movies. So, but I think it's good. You're getting, if people want to watch this movie, you're gonna at least get that option sooner than later, and it's just good to have that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. As I said, I myself, I've had a chance to to see the original film. And the original film, considering that, if I remember correctly, I'll look it up. I believe the original film was PG-13. And for those of you out there, you guys know I love my horror movies, and it's quite a accomplishment, I feel, to still create. It says a lot to your abilities to tell a story if you can make an enthralling and suspenseful story without using a lot of blood and gore. And don't get me wrong, like, I love blood and gore in a lot of my horror movies, without a doubt. But it's also good to see that, you have someone, because John Krasinski directed the film, as well as, I believe, he wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it as well. He's one of the writers on it as well. So just that idea of being able to create a story that's still enthralling, yet is still not extremely gory. It was PG-13 instead of being rated R. And there are very few, I could probably count them offhand, effective horror films that were suspense films that were effective in that way without having to resort to, a lot of like blood and violence. Because like one that comes to mind for me is The Ring, from way back when. But yeah, for sure.
That's another one.
Was that?
So When a Stranger Calls Back, that one does it for me, because that was all about psychological, horror, or more about suspense. See, there's like suspenseful movies, and then there's like, I feel like there's horror movies that are like scary movies, and then you have like gory movies, and they serve their purpose. But I mean, I could just say, like, just the idea of them how they're using sound in the movie. I mean, that was one of the big things. So I mean, yeah, no, I gotta catch up, but
catch up.
No, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Like, when I first saw the trailer, I was kind of like, what is this? I was like, but then sometimes I like to, if I'm not interested in seeing a movie, I'm like, okay, I'll see what the reviews are, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a second look, and then you get surprised. So, but no, the trailer for the second one, I mean, even though I haven't seen the first one, like, I mean, it looks good. So I was like, I do want to check it out. So, but yeah, I'm seeing that this is, I mean, Paramount is behind it, so I'm wondering if they're probably going to tie it in with their now rebranded. Well, they say it's a new streaming platform. They just rebranded CBS All Access, calling it Paramount Plus. So, we'll see what happens with that. But I bet you they're going to do some sort of, they'll probably have some sort of deal like that where it gets released soon on streaming, because, they need to build up their subscriber base. But yeah, this is good. I mean, people want to see new stuff. HBO Max is leading the way with their movies now. So.
For sure. So switching gears, there was another major story that made the rounds as well. So we're going to switch gears out of film and something that interesting that happened with I guess in business, as well as, I guess you could say, music as well. Apparently, there's going to be an acquisition by Square to take a majority stake in Jay-Z's streaming platform known as Tidal. So for those of you that are not familiar with Tidal, let me pull it up for you guys. Hold on one sec. All right. Yes, but yeah, for those of you that are not familiar with Tidal, is in essence streaming service that offers 70 million songs, as listed here in the story by Variety, and 250,000 high-quality videos in its catalog, along with the original video series, podcast playlists, artist discovery via Tidal Rising. Now, kind of similar to what we were talking about just now, Jerome, of what we were discussing with A Quiet Place 2. There are some streaming services that I use, but maybe this is a kind of a case in point with this particular story, as I'm not completely well versed when it comes to Tidal. I haven't used it that much. I've used many of its contemporaries, but not necessarily Tidal. And it's not necessarily because I think that the others are better per se, but I just haven't, used it a great deal. But according to the story in Variety, Square, as you guys can see here, is expected to pay $297 million in a combination of cash and stock for the Tidal stake, with existing artist shareholders, the remaining stakeholders. Tidal will still operate independently within Square. Sean Jay-Z Carter is expected to join Square's board, subject to the closing of the transaction. So with that being said, what are your thoughts on Square making this move to acquire the streaming service?
Well, first of all, I think this is just like another, example of just like Jay-Z, being the the business genius that he is. I mean, it's hilarious because, what is it? Tidal, like he bought Tidal back then. I think it was they said for like 56 million or something. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He was making it. I mean, according to the stories and everything I read, it's like he was making it more artist centered. So then the artists that were, had a stake, like I said, they shared they had more of an equity stake in these, in the revenue generated. So that was good. And also they try to focus it on like making it have like a higher quality platform, so you could have higher quality audio. It's supposed to be more of like a top tier streaming platform. And Jay-Z is leading it. I think he had most of his songs on there, and then some of the artists, like I think some of the songs you couldn't get on other platforms originally based on the deals, and he migrated over to Tidal. I think some of them now we're back on the other ones. But that was a good way to like push it and everything. But the thing is, their subscriber base never reached the same level of Apple, obviously, or Spotify or these other ones. But the thing is, it doesn't matter about that. It's like, because this is just another competitor or someone else, that could take it to another level or whatever. Just by him buying it at a good price earlier, and then now, someone else wants to get in the game, it's still valuable. And like turning 56 million into 297 million, he still has a stake in it. So like, it seems like Square and Jack Dorsey and Square is going to do is like, they want to make it more, they want to have a better relationship with like the actual direct consumers. So I guess, if this seems like it might be a way to help like entrepreneur artists who want to do things independently or on their own, get more of a stake in their own, the music that they stream. But it seems like to get payments directly by using Square. So it seems like the integration is going to be pretty cool. But it's just like, it just shows like, even if you build some company and it's not like the top company in the space, there's still value there. And it's like Jay-Z still saw that, and to be able to flip that, he could take this money now and like, who knows, do something else. And he just made money. He just had he sold most of his liquor, his champagne brand to, was it Moet, Louis Vuitton, Moet, that whole conglomerate. So like, he's just always making, I mean, he's about to I'm sure he's going to turn that billion into like, 2 billion soon. So I just think it's amazing showing this example of like, just how like a dude who's coming from like nothing to like a rapper to, he keeps transcending in different, and it's like, it's amazing to see, and you can tell he thinks differently. Like, he's one of those few people who thinks differently compared to like these other artists and anyone else. So I respect that, and I think it's amazing. But And
I was going to say, at least on my end, on a very surface level, the thing that I found fascinating about this, because just as you said, and it's a case in point that I myself, don't use it as frequently, or I'm not as well versed with the service. By doing this partnership, I feel like at least maybe we'll see. Only time will tell on the Square end, but at least on the Tidal end, it's a win, because at least on that end, on a very surface level, it very much reminds me of way back when Marvel was bought by Disney, where you have those instances where you think, okay, is this going to really work? But when you're looking at it on paper, but in some cases, you have those mergers or you have those partnerships or acquisitions that end up being, a match made in heaven, where they are able to create, this synergy off of each other that without the other party they wouldn't have, but together they're able to create. Because if I remember correctly, and those of you out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but the guy who is the CEO of Square is also the CEO of Twitter.
Yes.
So, to have that resource, in your pocket like that, to already have that, that door open to you. Not to say that, Tidal doesn't have, they don't have the resources to do what they need to do on a marketing level with any social media platform. Not at all, but it makes it far easier when you're in bed, so to speak, with the CEO of one of the major social media platforms. Makes things far easier. A lot of things that you might have to like jump over hoops to do, you might not have to do because you're already connected to the CEO of one of these platforms. And then I guess in vice versa, it just gives basically another revenue stream. Should it work out, another revenue stream for Square, a really easy additional revenue stream.
Yeah, and I would say like another thing is just the idea of like I think a lot of artists and just it has to do with also just people being brought up like not thinking big. Like you could see how Jay-Z is just he's not settling for like, oh, let me just be a partner or just be the artist and get paid the artist amount. Whatever. He sees like where the money is and record labels, they keep most of the money when it comes to like if back in the day when you were selling CDs or even on the radio. There's radio play or even streaming. Like there's a lot of complaints I know about people artists not liking how like Spotify's deals are or whatever, some of the other brands. But so it's like Jay-Z seeing that, hey, wow, now the music industry has this resurgence because of streaming. I need to own one. And like you see, like it's like having that mentality of like, all right, because he always had his own label and he had a partnership with Def Jam back in the day, and that's how he always had that mindset. But it's like continuing to have that mindset and everything. It's like, all right, this is where the industry's going now. Let me own a part of that space instead of just being the artist or having a little bit more of a stake. No, let me actually own it and then team up with other artists. Like I really respect that because not everybody thinks that way. It's like, Master P is another one who's like that. Obviously Diddy and, what is it, Dr. Dre. And there's a bunch, but like you really have to think in that way to finally reap the benefits and try to like, just to, build wealth and generational wealth. And then you could do other things or get into other spaces. So big up to Jay-Z for doing that. So.
For sure. So the next story that we wanted to touch on, this past Sunday, we had the Golden Globes aired on NBC, and we had regular hosts when it comes to the award show circuit. We had Tina Fey and Amy Poehler doing their thing, on the show. Mind you, with this edition, it was done socially distanced. They were doing it from two separate stages, so they had both hosts actually work. They televised it simultaneously, but they had them in two different locations, which I found creative, and they found a creative way to kind of make fun of that fact. I don't know if you saw that, Jerome, where they put their arm out. One of the hosts, they put their arm out, and someone else reached and touched the other host. It was pretty creative how they were able to kind of like touch on that. Found hilarious. But with all that out of the way, just in keeping in mind with like a lot of the nominations, I know that there was some controversy with the foreign press when it came to like the diversity with a lot of the nominees. However, we did have a lot of female nominees this year particularly. So there's something to be said about that also. Jerome, based on what we saw, the final results of the show and who won and who we expected to win and who didn't win, what did you think about it?
Yeah, first of all, just piggybacking what you're saying, like I thought that was really interesting, like how they did the the whole New York and the LA locations, and it was funny, and they kept having jabs at the Hollywood Foreign Press for the whole controversy was not having any black members though that were voting. So hopefully that'll change now that they really called them out. I also liked how they had first responders in the audience because I actually kind of saw it a little bit. I didn't see it from the very beginning. I had to go back and watch it, and I was like, oh wow! I was like, who are these people in the audience? I was like, cool, these are first responders. So that was really nice how they did that, and they gave them opportunity to be in the audience. But yeah, it was besides all the controversy before the show started, and nominations or whatever, or just Hollywood Foreign Press. It was a big night for like, a big history-making night. I mean, you had Chloe Zhao, NYU alumnus, shout out. She won Best Director, and it also was Nomadland also won Best Motion Picture Drama, and I mean, she's the first Asian female to win that, and also she's the second female director. I mean, that's kind of sad, but I mean, whatever, it's something. I'm glad Daniel Kaluuya won for Best Supporting Actor. That was big. That movie was great. He did a great job. Even though I was kind of I wish Lakeith Stanfield got nominated, but whatever, maybe later. But it was also big for rest in peace Chadwick Boseman. He won, and Andra Day. That was a big win. I mean, I was like, she just got into the game. So and Sacha Baron Cohen, I thought him winning, that was cool. And Borat winning for motion picture. It was a musical comedy. But no, it was big. I mean, like I said, you had a lot of minority. I mean, I think it was also the first time you had the best dramatic actor winning and female actor winning, both being African Americans at the same time. So that was big. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how the Oscars turn out. Usually, it's not exactly the same when it comes to nominations and people who win, but like usually you get a good read of what's to come for some of the other award shows. So there's a good chance, some of these people will get nominated or might win when it comes to Oscars, or, I mean, that's really the only big, that one and some of the Guild Awards, obviously. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty, I liked how they incorporated the virtual aspect and the live aspect, because I was kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, when it came to the Emmy, I didn't really watch the Emmys last time. I was kind of like, yeah, but I gave this a chance, and I was like, okay, they kind of made it interesting, and they kind of like had them interacting, had these jokes, these little skits and stuff, and in between, right before they cut to the commercial, they would have each of the different nominees kind of talking. It did have some technical difficulties, but whatever, they fixed for some of it. But no, it was I enjoyed it. It was pretty easy. So
yeah, for sure. I was gonna say one thing that I found particularly entertaining was just, I guess they had a couple of skits that were really entertaining where they were showing, if you recall, I think there was one that they were doing virtual doctors, and they were talking about different like symptoms that they had, like symptoms of being socially distanced. Like that part of it was pretty clever. So I enjoyed that skit. They had some like improv ones that I recall. I'm brain farting on the actors currently, but they had some like skits that they had that were definitely entertaining. It was great to see, just as you said, Kaluuya win. To see Chadwick Boseman win, that was great too. The only bummer about the show, in my opinion, was just to have some shows not even though I believe they were nominated, but they didn't win, and it was Lovecraft Country, because Lovecraft Country was, I don't know if you've seen it all the way through, or those of you out there have seen it all the way through. That show is incredible. So it absolutely deserved a nomination, but I absolutely feel that it should have also won, with all the talented players involved. One other thing that was really interesting too about that is it was fascinating. I made a joke about it, but it's just testament to the casting folks that you have with the folks over at Marvel. Many of the people that ended up winning are people that are players within Marvel, or are one, if they're not already existing players, they're people that will soon have their work seen in the MCU. So case in point, Chloe Zhao, who you just mentioned, she will be directing the Eternals, which from what I hear, or the news that's been going around, is that Marvel are completely like dumbstruck about how good it is. So I'm interested to see how it actually looks. I know it's kind of, you only can kind of take it with a grain of salt if a movie company says something about their own film that says that it's incredible, but there are also other parties even outside of them that have discussed it and said that apparently there are folks that are close to the film that say that it's really supposed to be really really good, or it's going to really, you know, shock people as to how good it can be. So it kind of gives me some deja vu of Guardians of the Galaxy, because I remember a lot of people, at least on paper, it seemed like it seemed like a silly idea, or it seemed like it was something that couldn't work or may not work. But lo and behold, when we actually saw the final product, a lot of people were shocked to see how you know, how entertaining and how unique it was as a film. And now you know, those characters are now household names. You know, people love Groot, people love Rocket Raccoon. So there's definitely something to be said about that. So switching gears from the Golden Globes, I was going to hop into this next story, speaking of deja vu, but I'm going to save it for the end because I really have a lot to say about it. Not to say that I don't have a lot to say about this next story, but let me see here. So this past Friday, we had the series finale of the Disney Plus series WandaVision. There were so many, you know, various theories that people were having about, okay, is this character really this character, or is this going to be revealed to be this? And mind you, you know, for me, there were some things that, you know, I was able to guess correctly, but, you know, there were a lot of things that I was not able to, you know, determine either. So I don't know if I was going to say, I'm sorry, Jerome, let me see. Hold on, let me get you back here. You had a chance to see the series finale, correct?
Yeah.
So oh, sorry. Hold on.
Make sure I watch.
There you go.
I try to watch ASAP. I mean, you know, it's kind of like it's like religion almost.
Right. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right, so I wanted to get everything up and running. It was acting, our software was acting a little wonky, but we persevered. So yes, we had the series finale this past Friday, and I'm going to talk about it briefly. So before I talk about it briefly, I will throw this up.
Yeah.
Spoilers. So
I was like, we're talking. You better put the spoiler.
Hold on. So if you guys are watching, or if you are you know, want to put it on mute for right now until the spoiler notification comes out, because I want to talk about it briefly. There were some things, Jerome, in this series finale that I wish. There were things that I was happy with, and there were some things I was kind of bummed about. So I'll start with the things that I was bummed about first, and then I'll close it with the things that were really great. With all the emphasis that was placed on the character of Pietro, and to have it kind of play out the way it did, kind of gave me some deja vu of how disappointing it was in, and you'll laugh when I say this, but in Iron Man 3, like, you know, that whole situation of, like, you know, oh, it was a red herring, and we really didn't, the person really wasn't who they said they were. But while that's interesting, the way that you go with it and the direction that they went, I found disappointing, because I felt that there was an opportunity there to do something really special, and they didn't do that. So that part of it was kind of a bummer. But other than that, I guess the things that I did, I was gonna say the things that I did, like the transformation or the new look for Wanda, as her alter ego fully realized, was quite incredible. Like, the costume looks great. She looks great in it. So, like, I was extremely, you know, cool with that, and the callbacks that they had, and the way that she was able to overtake, so to speak, Agnes was pretty awesome. So, like, what she did using the same strategy that was used on her prior, and kind of like throwing it back in Agnes's face, was pretty cool. But what were your thoughts? Just general, not like every single thing, but just like general notes.
No, I thought it was great. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, like when I first started seeing the series, like I still was watching, even though like the first 3 or 4 episodes, I was kind of like, oh my God, this better pick up. And it finally did pick up and got better. And I mean, whatever, I respect the whole unique, you know, like everything tied in really well with the whole, how they explain why, okay, she's making it a sitcom, and you know, that was cool, like how they went back and showed that in like, I think it was the last episode, the one prior to this, but yeah, I love how they finally tied in, like you were saying, or finding a good reason to make her have that outfit and call her the Scarlet Witch. Because it's like, they never called her Scarlet Witch before. They've always said that witch or whatever. Or they're like, you know, she was just, we know her.
Yeah.
But they always call her Wanda, but I think it was in Avengers in, what was it? The second one, Age of Ultron. Like, I remember Tony Stark, he said something. He was like, that witch is in your head. But they never said the Scarlet. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no reason to call her Scarlet Witch. So I like how they brought that in, they tied that in with this whole you know, the background history of that she was one, you know, or she was forged or whatever. She's like this ultimate, really, you know, powerful witch. But I had no issue with that. Wait, it's funny that you say the thing about you thought it was kind of disappointing with Quicksilver. To me, it's not the end of the world. You know why? Because if they try to do some sort of multiverse thing with that, which I thought they were gonna do, because I was like, okay, maybe they're doing that. I'm fine, because the thing is, let's be honest. Like, I like the X-Men movies, but if they were gonna bring in some sort of like alternate universe and have those characters come in, like, not all of those, you know, the characters or the continuity, not all those decisions I think were the best. So it's like, it's better for Marvel to just have a fresh start. I mean, of course, you know, when they do start an X-Men movie, that's in my opinion, because I mean, I think like Wolverine was great, obviously Professor X, you know, Magneto choices, but like there's some characters they had in there, maybe they weren't the best cast or they weren't the best version of that character. So I don't think Marvel wants to be associated with all of that, all of what was prior in the X-Men universe. I think that was just a little joke they put in there, and obviously it was.
And I was gonna say I get all of that, and I'm not really like hard pressed about, you know, what you were talking about with the multiverse thing. Like, even if that wasn't the case, it would. I feel like there was still an opportunity there to tie it to, since this is supposed to be, you know, a backdoor entry into what, Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man No Way Home at this point, since it was announced, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If it's supposed to tie to those two things, I feel like there was an opportunity there to, you know, make him somebody else, or at least even make him one of the additional players that may play into those films. Because if you're not going to do that, then I feel that it probably would have been it would have kind of been a waste to have him in the whole story in the first place. Like, you could have just not had him in there and put someone else in there in their place, because you know that there's going to be a baggage associated with having the exact same actor who played that role not be somebody. You know, like, he didn't have to be Quicksilver specifically, but, you know, what if he was one of the other players that, you know, ends up being, you know, the puppeteer behind everything? Because in so many of, you know, the Marvel films, yeah, we a lot of times have, you know, the surface villain, but in many of those films, you also have the puppeteer who's working behind the scenes in the larger scope of the story that may not necessarily play out in that initial story, but, you know, down the line, come to find out that, you know, they had a bigger influence in what was at play from the get-go, which is what I like, you know, about the MCU. So while at the same time I understand that, you know, there's a contained story at play here in WandaVision, I feel if you're not going to, you know, go that route, or you're not really going to take advantage of having that tool at your disposal, then don't use it. Just go a different way and don't even bother having it.
But that hex that she created, like that world she created, I mean, to me, it's fine, because it's like she made a little matrix. I mean, her little hex. So it's like you could put anything in there. So to me, that's fine. And to me, that doesn't bug me as much as, like, say, Iron Man 3, where that was straight up, I don't know what the hell I think that they just thought the Mandarin was a joke. And then when people got mad at them saying, oh, what are you doing with the Mandarin?
They retconned it, yeah.
They were like, oh, no, that wasn't the real Mandarin. And now we're going to see him in the Shang-Chi movie. So, I mean, hey, at least they're making amends. But, I mean, I think they also wanted to contain the story, so it's like you're going to it's called WandaVision, so that's what they're focused on, and I think they completed everything. The arcs and everything. It all came to a good conclusion. But you did see, with the 2 little bonus scenes, you get a little preview of what could happen for the that Secret Invasion movie, obviously, or Captain Marvel 2. So that's cool. And then also with you're seeing Wanda using her astral self, so it's like she's becoming more like like a Doctor Strange, and they're saying that she's like more powerful than him. So maybe that would have been. I thought there was gonna be some cameo, maybe with Doctor Strange at least, but it's it's not the end of the world. But I don't know. I just think it is probably smart on Marvel's. I just think it's just good on Marvel's behalf to actually wipe the slate clean with most of the X-Men thing, because I think if you just get too much into that the multiverse thing and you're using the other actors in the other world, people are going to just they're going to keep associating that as being what the X-Men is or whatever, as opposed to like in DC where they're continuing to do that, and they kind of had to retroactively do everything so they could just make everything work in their own little worlds. Marvel's really trying to like plan stuff out, and now because they had the 20th Century Fox acquisition, they're really trying to be careful, I think, with integrating some of these characters. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with that, but I don't know. It worked for me because it was like to me, it was like a little Matrix. That's basically what it was. She made her own little Matrix or Hex, or, like in the comics, and you can do whatever you want there. So, and I did like how Vision now there's a way for him to like be back. So that was good too. But
Yeah. But all right, let me bring down spoilers. Anything else you want to add before I take this down?
No, I mean, I think this is just it just shows you got to stick with Marvel, even if they do something different. Things might start out slow, but then you got to stick with them. That's all I'll say. And this show proved that. So now we're looking forward to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and what's next. So I'm excited about that. So.
Absolutely. All right. So in spoiler, I'm gonna take down the scroll, guys. We'll take this down. Okay. All right. So the last story that I wanted to talk about, and it happened earlier. It happened earlier this week, and that was the story regarding one of the big events or the big cons that happened over the course of the year, and that's of course San Diego Comic-Con. So they're up to got the cap on right now.
Sure, man. I have enough for the story.
But yes, so a lot of people were asking. I remember like up to this point we hadn't heard any news. Normally Comic-Con gives people information up in they give people information in November prior to the year of the con to talk about preparations. Hey, we're going to be selling tickets. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. I know this year was slightly different in that because we didn't have a 2020 show, there was a lot of tickets that were automatically going to be transferred to the 2021 show. So because of that caveat, I know a lot of people figured, okay, we didn't hear anything in November because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with this whole transfer thing with the new show. So maybe that's why we haven't heard anything yet. Maybe they're still planning that. But we did get information as of this week that the upcoming show will indeed happen. I'll say this: there will be a San Diego at home that will be happening around the same time in July. As of this year, I'm going to read the exact story, but it will be happening this year in July. But there is a caveat in that we will have a physical show happen in November. So you guys are probably thinking, how's that going to work? So I'm gonna read the exact story as it's read, and I'll actually share it as well. Let me pull it up for you guys because it's quite fascinating on how they're going to try to make all of this work. But if anyone can do it, I'm sure Comic-Con can. So let me pull that up. All right. Let's see. Pull this up here. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. All right. So according to, based on what they posted on their website, Comic-Con International had this to say about their upcoming show. As you guys are aware, due to concern for public health and safety, San Diego Comic-Con had to cancel both of its in-person events in 2020 and recently announced that their spring 2021 show, WonderCon in Anaheim, would also be canceled. In its place, WonderCon at Home will once again be held as a free online event on March 26th and 27th, 2021. It is the policy of the organization to continue to closely monitor information from local and national healthcare officials as it pertains to the COVID-19 pandemic. Never could we have imagined that what the world experienced in 2020 and continues to experience today. Right now, even though then they go into detail about, while it's great that folks are inoculated, it appears that July will still be too soon to safely hold an in-person event of the magnitude of Comic-Con. For this reason, we've made the challenging decision to postpone Comic-Con 2021 as an in-person gathering until 2022 dates, and once again hold this year's celebration as the free online Comic-Con at Home. Unfortunately, the challenges of this past year and the multiple postponements of our two largest events have left us with limited financial resources. That bit I found a little bit interesting, but I'll continue. So this year, the online experience will be reduced to a 3-day event spanning July 23rd to the 25th of 2021. Now, that part is also interesting too, because as many of you guys know that are familiar with Comic-Con, for all intents and purposes, for me, Comic-Con is pretty much a week, but in the literal sense, it happens from Wednesday to Sunday. So in this regard, it's just going to happen, over the course of a weekend. So that part of it was that change is quite interesting. And I know many of you are probably, asking about, the other caveat of what I was talking about with the transfer, and there is a component, to that as well. I'll read a snippet of that, and then Jerome, I want to know your thoughts. So in talking about the transfer portion in that same document that they released, it said, at this time, individuals who have purchased badges that were rolled over to the 2021 show will have those badges automatically transferred to the 2022 event unless a refund is requested. Now, they also go into detail in the same regard when it comes to those needing, a transfer for, exhibitor deposits, payments, and things of that nature. They said that we are currently working on an option for those wishing to transfer their badge or exhibitor deposit payments as full or partial payments towards our 2021 November event. Information will be forthcoming. So please watch your email inbox and the Comic-Con website for further details. So with all of that being said, a lot of it, it's a given just based on the nature of, everything that's happening right now. Everything happening in the world is not at a spot where I feel that we could have an event that could hold 150,000 people, Jerome. So, what do you think of this move by Comic-Con to, kind of, I guess this year do more of a hybrid of what they did this past year versus just all out doing a just one virtual show?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing this or whatever. I didn't even post it because I was like, it's not, none of this is surprising. I'm like, there was no way this is going to be an in-person show by July. I mean, just look at, it's just, disappear when 2021 hits. So, eventually we'll get out of this pandemic and, things should go back to normal. Hopefully, some sense of normalcy from 2019, but it's going to take time. So I knew this wasn't going to be I knew this wasn't going to be in person. But yeah, it's great that they have some sort of online event. I like how they're trying to add that component though in November. I mean, that's cool. I mean, to me personally, since I've been there, I think I've been there like 4 years or 5 years. I know you've been there way longer. You're like the pro. I'm like a intermediate. But yeah, let's be real. There's nothing is the same as going to San Diego, especially in the summer. I don't know, something about July, the summer. It's just like, to me, that's Comic-Con. So I don't know. I mean, San Diego is true. It's a warmer place. So November, you maybe sort of get that vibe, but I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be the same thing because, like summer, you just get those summer vibes and when you're out there. But I still question, like, even with this November in-person event, I'm sure it's not going to be full capacity either. Like, it's probably going to be less. So I don't know how they're gonna really do it. Because I mean, that's the big problem. There's just so many. I mean, every time you go to Comic-Con and you're going to these, like, just walking the exhibit floor. I mean, there's like you said, 100,000 people. It's so many people. That is not a good recipe if not everyone's vaccinated or whatever. I mean, maybe they might have to do something like that and be like, hey, are you vaccinated? And you have to prove it. I don't know. I don't know how that process is going to be, but that's the whole issue with these conventions. So it's like, I feel like that's something really 2022. I'd say we have a good shot at that, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. So online is better than nothing. I do remember last year, I didn't really check out everything, but there were some good interviews I saw. Like they had that one with like Robert Rodriguez and some directors. I thought that was cool. And there's a few, but it's still not the same as being in Hall H and the excitement of the Marvel panel or whatever movie, or if it's or the Warner Brothers panel or whatever. I miss those days. So hopefully we can get that experience again. But I'm not counting on that until really 2022. I don't know if this November version would really be considered an official like version of Comic-Con like it's been in the past, but it's still better than nothing though. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was gonna say for sure. I was gonna say from my end, it's interesting. As I said, they're doing this hybrid event, so to speak. But the part that is going to be fascinating to me and how they execute it is, okay, if you're doing these two shows, how are you going to make each one interesting enough to have a person go to, this free one, but yet also go to this November show? And I mean, there is something to be said that if you create it, the folks will come. I know there's been such a fever pitch about having, Comic-Con and something that they look forward to. I mean, gosh, I look forward to it, every single year. It's a part of my routine every single year. So maybe, folks will still figure out a way to kind of work that into their routine. I don't know how it's going to work with it, depending on when they put it, how it's going to work with like Thanksgiving and other holidays when people are still working, they're still in school. One of the great things about, things being during the summer is that, it's one less thing. A lot of people are out of school or, they're on vacation during that period of time. So, maybe there's something to be said about that. Maybe it's purposely being placed at that time to kind of weed out, having, just as we were talking about, the normal numbers that they're accustomed to seeing. Because, that one point that they brought up about, having, being in dire straits when it comes to finances is pretty interesting for them to divulge, because when you think of Comic-Con and think of how massive and such a big undertaking it is, it seems like they had so many resources, and to see like a Goliath like that fess up and say we, due to limited resources, we're not going to work in the capacity that we're normally accustomed to working in. We're going to shrink it down a bit. Is it interesting? But I feel it's also kind of refreshing too, because when you're trying to put on, something that's that big of an undertaking, and say if in any circumstance, if you're taking a break from it, or you are something happens that prevents you from doing that event or doing that particular thing, the best way I feel to go about it is to slowly rev up to the full capacity that you're used to. So there's something to be said about them deciding to do a smaller show versus saying, you know what, we're going to do, a full event, even though we've been gone for a year. We're going to go back to the way things were, and things don't necessarily happen that way. There are a lot of moving parts and things that you kind of have to get revved up again to get back into the swing of things. So, you know, I think that it is a good idea. I'll put it this way. I think that they should either do one show or the other, because I feel like it's a lot to do a virtual event and then have this live show. But at the same time, I understand them doing that live show to do it as kind of like a slow build up to getting back into their normal routine. But if that, I would say, why not do that for your 2022 show instead of doing it all within the same year? I still think that that's a lot. And then on top of that too, when you're trying to attract people to go to each version of those shows, how are you going to determine what's going to go in this at-home edition and what's going to go in this live event? Does that mean that all the Marvel stuff or all the like big ones that are huge draws are not going to be a part of Comic-Con at home, and all of them are now going to be a part of this November event, and now I have to go to this November event to check those out? And then like some of the other shows may not be at the in-person event, and I have to go to the free event to check those out. Like, it raises a lot of questions that, I hope that they're able to figure out, because while it's, good on them to give us 2 shows, and I'm not complaining that we have 2 shows, mind you, I just feel, at least on their end, it's going to be a lot to try to do 2 shows and then make them equally appealing to attend. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and yeah, but the thing is, like you were saying, like I know you were saying you're like, it's shocking to see how it'd be in financial issues. I mean, it's not shocking to me. It's not really shocking, because if you think about it, it's like they're if you look at their website, they're California Nonprofit Public Benefit Corporation.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I don't know, I have to look, but I'm pretty sure most of the money they're making is from people paying for badges, and then you have the exhibitors, and then I don't know how like it works with the studios or whatever, but if you're not getting that revenue for the show last year, or however it's working, I mean, I don't know, maybe they're making some money somehow with the online one, with the advertisers. I don't know, there might be something so there could be some reason why they're doing that, but I mean, they have to find some sort of stream of revenue. And like, I mean, people don't realize, like, when some of these things, these conventions or whatever it is, something that you just think is normal, whatever, when that thing shuts down, like that not only affects the company or the nonprofit, but like also just the area, like it's like a effect everywhere. So, I mean, obviously with a whole bunch of businesses right now just going out of business in this area, or just just having hard times. I mean, look at movie theaters. I mean, anything with people going in there, that industry is really getting affected. So, I mean, like I said, I feel like they're gonna. I mean, I feel like they should be good, because they're a real staple, and they have a lot of support, and a lot of people want to go there, and it's a big promotional marketing mechanism for superhero movies and just genre movies. So like, there's a necessity. There's definitely a necessity for Comic-Con to thrive. But yeah, that is weird to see. Like, would they have some things on the online platform, online version, or just in person? Probably. But I mean, my thing is just like, even if you have the in-person show, like, how many people are gonna really, even if you want to go, how many people are gonna actually be able to go? Like, I really don't believe 100% capacity is gonna be. You're gonna have that by November, technically. I mean, you could, but who knows? I mean, it's still uncertain. What you saw, like I said, New York just opened their theaters. I think it's only gonna be like 25%, or like that's it's not the same. And maybe it might be better, just like you were saying, maybe just have the online version and then wait until everything can be back at full capacity for 2022.
And then do a partial show, at least in my opinion.
But also, if you think about it, though, too, even with the in-person stuff, like, I mean, you got to remember, we're hardcore fans. We like being there in person, but you can watch a lot of those Hall H, streams. Like, I mean, it goes online, so you don't have to be there to see the panel. But I like being in person. It's like, there's a lot of, the benefits of parties and all that stuff.
I mean, it's everything. I mean, even outside, it's going to the panels, and I mean, I've said this ad nauseum, and you guys can check it out. I have a whole playlist dedicated to it on YouTube of San Diego peeps, or SDCC peeps that I've coined it. You have people that you only get to see once a year. You even more year after year after going to this event year after year. A lot of these people that hang out with, they become in essence family for you. Those are the people that you hang out with, and even though you have the luxury of social media, or say this day and age we have the luxury of social media, it's not the same of being able to hang out with a lot of these people that that you consider family. And then just as you said, there's a lot of leisurely events, parties, after parties, what have you. That's just gravy. But just the idea of being able to check out a lot of these things firsthand, and the memories that it creates with those Hall H moments where you're seeing things that are being shown for the very first time to the public, announcements that are being made, all of those things, you'll always remember those things.
That gravy though, you're not going to get at home. That's what I'm saying. So that's what makes it so special. Like, you have to be there to try and even, like, that's why I love in-person stuff. Like, there's tons of people who say, oh, I could just watch Hall H. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's, you got the information. Yeah, you saw it. But like, it's not the same as actually being there yet. I remember waiting in line, and then now we go to the press line if we can, but whatever, still getting in line. Sometimes they have a swag, whatever, and just like the people you meet, like that you see there, but then also like the networking you can do, and then also if you can go to some of the parties, and then they have screening. I mean, they have stuff that you don't see at all, but like if you're there, there's the studios or whatever, they're trying to promote films or whatever, and like having those Q&A sessions with the director or whatever, or like, to me, that's like, that's what makes a convention, an in-person event, still valuable, and that you can never lose that value by having that, as opposed to just, oh, we can do everything online. Like, you really can't get the same. Not everything works online in the same way. Like, you can get away with some stuff, but not everything. And also, if you think about it, like, if something's big online, you really don't know how big it is until like people would come out and support it in person. That's how I really look at it. So it's like, you can have 1 million followers, but no one comes to like your show or whatever. Are they really hardcore fans? Are they really your fans? Comic-Con, you better believe it. Those people will come out. people are begging.
I guess my thing is this: like, if you decide to do the partial show, why not? You've already shown that you have executed a virtual show. Why not just do the partial show? Why do I guess that's my argument. Either do one or the other. So like, you could take away the virtual show, because now if you're doing this partial show, you can actually invest all your time and energy in trying to make this partial show everything that it could be. In terms of, who they want to send to each one, and what resources they're going to, provide to each show, I feel like it's dividing their energies when they can invest it in one or the other. I guess that's my only thing that I'm saying.
But you never know. Like, they might, they're just saying this. They could always change stuff. So, but we'll see what happens. It's just, all I can say, I think we can agree, it's just not going to be the same until it's back to. That's what I'm. No, that's what my excuse to go to San Diego every year.
Yeah, for sure. But with that being said, guys, those were some of the major, at least for us, a lot of the major things that happened over the course of this week in the world of entertainment. What are some stories that you that came across? What you've seen that you thought were pretty interesting? Drop it down in the comments. Let us know. As I mentioned before, excuse me. You're watching Movers and Shakers Unlimited. This is our segment known as This Week in Review. And as I said, we do this every Saturday, just talking about a lot of the news bits and entertainment that happened over the course of the week, from the prior Sunday to today to Saturday. Jerome, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, just always good talking to you. And if you want to subscribe, Twitter, Instagram, I have Liam Productions on Twitter, Liam Productions 21 Instagram. Obviously, subscribe, like I said, Movers Shakers Unlimited on same thing, YouTube, and we're on Facebook, Twitter. We're Move and Shake UNLTD. So that's about it, and we'll see you next week.
All right, cool. But yes, just everything that Jerome dropped. Be sure to find us on all of those social media handles. As always, just as I mentioned at the top, make sure that you like and subscribe to this video if you enjoyed this video and are looking forward to some other things that we discuss. Even outside of This Week in Review, we do have reviews that we do of shows that are happening. So especially a lot of those virtual shows. Or I should say those virtual cons that are happening. I'll keep you posted if we'll do one on WonderCon. We might end up doing one on WonderCon. We do have one posted right now for Farpoint Con if you want to check out. For those of you that are either familiar with Farpoint Con or are curious about Farpoint Con, they did something really interesting this year in their virtual show. I would say to a lot of cons that are out there to take note from what Farpoint did with their setup with their virtual con, because it was pretty amazing on what they did with that. And I feel like a lot of cons can take note from how they executed that. And I would like to see that from other cons. But with that being said, as I said, we want to be doing some reviews of some virtual shows. We also will be doing some, continue to do reviews of some upcoming series. We do have the season finale of this past season's The Expanse that is currently in our archives that you can check out. However, we do have some new shows that are on the way. As I mentioned before, we will be doing a show on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I will be making an announcement later on tonight on when you guys can expect that. It more than likely will be on a Saturday since it will fall on the show will drop on Fridays. I will be a part of that show and we'll have some special guests that will be joining us talking about that show from our team. So just be on the lookout for that. Other than that show, we will be doing series reviews of Star Trek Discovery, as well as a few other shows, or we're still kind of like lining that up, but Star Trek Discovery for sure. And we also will be doing a review of the last season of The Expanse. So look out for that. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD, and of course on Instagram at Brandon Troy _ENT, man. I could talk today. All right. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.